Here we have a rational inequality that we want to solve, and our first step for any type of quadratic or rational inequality is we want to set the problem to 0. The reason we want to do that is because whenever you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. And your issue is if you try to multiply both sides of this inequality by 1 minus x, you have to take into the two cases of what if this denominator is positive or what if this denominator is negative. So in order to avoid having to deal with that situation, you just set your problem to 0. So when we do that, we have 1 plus x divided by 1 minus x minus 1 is less than or equal to 0. Now, what we want to do is to subtract, and you want to think about how do you want to, or how can you add or subtract fractions. In order to do that, you have to have a common denominator. So we're going to multiply this negative 1 by the other denominator, 1 minus x. So when we do that, what we have in the numerator is 1 plus x, and we're going to distribute that negative 1. So we have negative 1 plus x, and then our denominator is the same exact thing, so we keep that denominator of 1 minus x is less than or equal to 0. So now when we combine our like terms in the numerator, 1 minus 1 cancels, and we have 2x divided by 1 minus x is less than or equal to 0. So now that we have that, we can identify our zeros. So with rational inequalities, you set your numerator equal to 0. So we have a 0 at x is equal to 0. And remember that in this problem, it is equal to. So x is equal to 0 is included. Then what we want to do is to find our excluded values or our asymptote here. So that way we set our denominator equal to 0. So we have one minus x is equal to 0. So a negative x is equal to negative 1. So x is equal to a positive 1. That's our excluded value. And now we can make our number line to perform our sign test. So we have the points 0 and 1. And what you want to remember is that here I can be equal to 0 because x is equal to 0 is a 0. And I cannot be equal to 1 because 1 in our denominator makes that undefined. So when we use our sign test, we test a value in each region to see if it's true. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to test the value of, let's say, negative 2. So in the numerator, I'll have negative 4. In my denominator, I'll have positive 3. So on this side, anything I plug in gives me a negative result. I need to test a value between 0 and 1, so I can test 0.5 or 1/2. So 2 times 0.5 gives me 1, and 1 minus 0.5 gives me 0.5. So anything in between 0 and 1, I get a positive result. Then we need to test a value on the right of 1. So if you test 2, in the numerator, 2 times 2 will give you 4. And remember, we're checking this one because that's what we based our 0 and our excluded value off of. So if I test the value of 2, 2 times 2 gives me 4. And 1 minus 2 gives me negative 1. So I have a negative on this side. So to solve this problem, where's the rational inequality? 2x divided by 1 minus x less than or equal to 0. Less than or equal to 0 means the values are negative. So this is from negative infinity to 0. Bracket on 0 because it is included. Union from parentheses, and we use parentheses because you can't include 1. That's your excluded value. From 1 to positive infinity.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.